Absolutely.
That's a great tool to do. Yeah,
it's necessary to keep us
necessary.
motivated, to keep the amount of dopamine that we got in our brains moving us forward. By setting those goals that are large but still achievable, it keeps us motivated to keep working towards those things.
What's interesting, it actually goes into the word that we're
there we go.
We're talking about today, the word reframe. And,
Yeah.
And Mike, give us a little synopsis where you were thinking about the word reframe before we get into it.
Yeah, sure. So earlier today, you sent a text, asking, who's going to be available and, if we had any ideas for words. Excuse me. And the word reframe has been something, or the concept of reframing has been something that I've been, dealing with for a very, very long time, several years at this point. But over the past few days specifically, I've been diving into it just because so I'll share this. I'm starting in a new branch of my career next Tuesday. So not today is Monday, so not tomorrow, but the following Tuesday, I'm taking another step in my career.
Okay.
And to be quite frank with you, I have a little bit of let's call it nerves. I guess nerves is a good way to describe it. Maybe a little apprehension. Trepidation.
All right.
That's the word. Okay. Trepidation is the word.
That's all right.
I have a bit of trepidation about it for a couple reasons, and I've been trying to kind of work through that in my mind, and a part of it has been diving into the concept of reframing my own limiting beliefs. So gotcha. The challenges that I have within my own mind as it relates to finding the discipline and dedication that it's going to take, the sacrifice necessary for success with the work that I do, is quite a big chunk to bite off.
Understood.
And I have a lot of goals, not just learning Spanish. I have a lot of goals for myself over the next year, and actually over the next 2 to 3 years, I have some major things that I'm looking to accomplish. And finding success with this new work that I'll be doing is going to be it plays a major part. And so I'm really I'm putting a lot of stock into doing well with this. So with that, with high hopes tends to come trepidation or angst or anxiety and things like that. So I've been kind of working through that because I have a week left before I start, and I want to hit the ground running as much as possible. And I understand that working through my own challenges in my own mind as soon as possible, before I get started, if possible, is going to be a big benefit for me. So that's where the idea of reframe and why I've been kind of zeroed in on that for the last few days.
That's awesome, man. Yep. That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's get started because
sure. What's up, G? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So the word for the day. My bad. Sorry, everybody. I got a little cross. My mind kind of went off for a minute.
You're good.
We're about to get started, you guys. We're going to start with a definition here. Definition for reframe. Do you want to go for it?
No, I'll do the
okay.
What's the one with the Latin and that's the one I like.
All right, that's fine. I'll go
the etymology?
Yeah, the etymology.
Okay.
So this reframe, the definition for reframe is to reframe means to change the way something is viewed, interpreted, or understood, especially by placing it in a different context. All right?
That's very good.
So to reframe means to change the way something is viewed, interpreted, or understood, especially by placing it in a different context.
Love it.
All righty.
All right, what's next?
Excuse me, etymology.
Okay, etymology. Now, I told you I was going to start working on my language skills. And so this every week is part of that. So the etymology for the word reframe comes from the prefix re, or again, and the suffix frame, or structure, shape, or boundary. To reframe literally means to give a new structure. The term became widely used in psychology and cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT for those of us who are familiar with it, as a tool for mental and emotional flexibility. I'll read that last sentence again. The term became widely used in psychology and cognitive behavioral therapy as a tool for mental and emotional flexibility.
All right, and here goes the emotional lens. You want me to just read it, or you?
Yeah, go
it?
ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, so reframing the emotional lens. What once again I love. This is the impactful one.
It's your favorite part.
It's
Yeah,
my favorite part. Is the feeling positive, negative. The positive side is empowerment, clarity, resilience, and hope. The negative side is dismissal or denial if used to bypass real emotions. I think that's powerful. So why? Reframing alters meaning, and meaning directly affects how we feel and respond.
That's very, very, very good.
Does anybody want to get started with those?
Well, I feel like I gave my introductory thoughts. You see how I passed that hot potato off?
Oh yeah.
You want to go ahead?
Well, I don't know how. Yeah. Okay. One of the things I was thinking was different ways that. Okay, I was thinking first that the word reframe, as I mentioned to you earlier before we got started, is not a word that generally gets used in society. I mean, it's a type of thing where I believe it happens way more than people realize, that people are doing it and they don't realize that you can put a name on it. Okay.
Yes.
And I think it's because we may characterize it sort of as going with the flow. Okay. Where if something changes, then you just go with it, and you don't realize that you're actually going through the process of reframing. Okay. Like one of the examples that came to my mind is, say you're in the market and you're going to buy a vacuum cleaner. Okay, and so you're looking at one vacuum cleaner you're a salesperson, okay? You're a salesperson, the traditional salesperson, you're out there trying to sell a vacuum cleaner. And the one that you're going to sell, the price is $550, okay? And so the customer you're talking to, they say, oh my God, that's too much money. I know I can go over to this store and I can get one for $300, okay? So then now you, as a salesperson, now you have to reframe this customer's mind, okay? Not because you're trying to get over on them, because you truly believe that what you're selling them is the best product for them and they will benefit from it, even though you know you just gave a price of $550 and they say, I know I can go down to Target or Walmart or whatever and pay $300, okay? Now, you being a good salesperson, you already know the market, you know your product, and you know what else is out there, right? So then they name vacuum cleaner ABC, whatever. And so, and the customer tells you, I can go out and buy this for $300. So it's now your job to reframe their mind. Okay. And to me, this isn't taking advantage of them.
Sure.
Okay. You're going to reframe their mind because what they're looking at is cost.
Yes.
And that's all they're looking at. And so they're thinking a vacuum cleaner is a vacuum cleaner is a vacuum cleaner.
Which they are not.
Right.
Right.
So why pay $550 when I can pay $300? Okay. So then, but it may turn out that the one that they say they want, which is $300, it may last for maybe 5 years, and then they have to get another one. You know this as a salesperson because you've done your research, so on and so forth. And so year one or year zero, I guess, $300. 5 years later, time to buy another one. 5 years later, time to buy another one. So over this time, $300, $600, $900. Over the same 15-year period, yours, which costs $550, may be good for that entire 15-year period because the quality is such. And so then now your job is to let the customer get the customer to reframe their understanding of value. They're thinking value is just the dollar amount that we're putting out at this particular transaction. But of course, you're looking further down the road. And if you can let them see that because the quality of this particular product that you're selling And other things such as the support it gets. If something goes on, they'll replace or return with no questions asked. That type of thing. That the value is not in the dollar amount so much as it is in the quality. And so then your job as a salesperson is to reframe their mind to get them to see at a level that they weren't currently looking at. And so to me, that's one definition, if you will, or one example of utilizing reframing.
Yeah, I agree. You literally just described most of what I do for a living. Thank you. That helped. I need to be taking notes. You could be my sales coach. Yeah, I think that is a perfect example of reframing in the sense of helping somebody to understand, in this case, value versus cost and things like that. Obviously, there are so many ways to approach the concept of a reframe, which is why I think it's a really good word that can generate some pretty good conversation. For me, reframing has, just kind of expounding on what I've talked about when I first started talking. A reframe, I'll give an example. You gave an example, I'll give an example. I've looked into the idea of like procrastination, okay, which is something that a lot of people deal with to one degree or another. And I was kind of just researching, and some of the things that I came across, one of the really cool ideas that I liked, which is a reframe, is that the practice of procrastination is essentially the practice of focusing more attention on the work or effort or sacrifice that it takes to achieve, to get a certain task or whatever done, versus focusing that same attention on the benefit or the outcome or the payoff, so to speak.
Okay.
And so the reframe is, first of all, understanding that is, in a lot of cases, the mindset that goes behind procrastination. The reframe is shifting that attention to the outcome. So, for instance, let's say, I need to tidy up the house. Tidying up the house takes time. It takes energy. It takes effort. It takes, sacrifice, because I could be, sitting down watching Netflix or something like that. And if I spend time focusing on the time that it'll take and the energy that I'll have to spend and the fact that my hands are going to be chapped after I wash, a sink full of dishes and all of these other things that could be detrimental to my progress or that dopamine that I spoke about earlier, that'll motivate me to get it done. If I shift my mind to think about the fact that, okay, so now if I go ahead and go through with this, my home will be clean. I'll be able to have a little bit more peace of mind, because we all know that our environments externally reflect our environments internally. And so, if we live in a place where we don't take care of it and things like that, that's a direct reflection of how we're doing inside. And so I know that if I start to tidy up if I do the work and then I have a clean, tidy home, not only is my mind going to be more at peace, my nervous system can relax a little bit more. I can invite company over without feeling stressful or things like that, because I don't want everybody to see my mess. I got to close all the doors, that type of thing. I've done this. I'm speaking from I'm speaking from experience. I don't have to, shove everything in the closet and slam the door and, like, remember the cartoons where they open the door and everything fall out? Yeah. I don't have to do that. But if I focus my attention on the benefits that come from following through with what I know I need to do, then it's essentially a reframe. Then my mind will allow me to, then I'll find the motivation easier to get it done, if that makes sense.
It does. Now, what I hear in there, in what you just described, is there's a value assessment that's going on.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yes, I'm assessing the value of paying the energy to get it done versus the value of having it done and the benefits that come along with that.
Yeah. Because, and you use the word procrastination, because at some point we're saying I value inactivity as opposed to accomplishment. So then now, do I value the thing to be accomplished higher than the inactivity? Because there's pleasure in inactivity as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
And so then now here comes the value assessment that you just went through. And then when you determine that the thing that will be achieved has greater value than the doing nothing, because like I said, there's value in doing nothing, because
to a
you're
certain
not
degree.
literally doing nothing, you're doing something else.
Yes. Yes.
It may look like you're doing nothing, but
Yes.
you're really doing something
You're
else.
indulging in worthless pleasure.
Right.
Yeah.
And for some that has great value. And that's why we have people whose lives, they may have goals, they may want to do this and that or the other, but they never quite bring themselves to doing it, because they really, and they probably won't admit it to themselves, they value inactivity and the things that go along with the inactivity. Inactivity being weighed against achieving things. You're either working or you're not working. But if you're not working, guaranteed you're doing something else. Something else could be scrolling.
Yeah. Yes.
Something
Getting
else.
cheap dopamine that's just wasting your brain.
Right. Something else could be, watching football game after football game after. Okay, I was guilty of that last week, right? but I'm saying is there's value in that, and so in the end, do you say, you might say I wasted time, but you say that against the thing that you could have accomplished. But because you didn't accomplish, you've assigned value to something else, and you've decided that something else is greater than the thing that you originally came to mind to say, I'm going to do this thing.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. And so the reframe would be to shift the priorities there. So the value where it could have been at one point the quote unquote doing nothing or doing something that is not valuable at all in the grander sense. To prioritizing that thing that needs to get done, and then assessing that same value or even more value, because it is more valuable in the grander sense, to the task that bears doing for the good of your future self when you want to
really
relax.
Good.
Yeah.
That's really good. No, y'all
And that can be applied to any number of things.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's something. That is a description of a decision that each of us makes almost at every moment of every day.
So when this is very good. Just listening to you guys. One thing that I was considering was within the assessment, right? You recognize that something is wrong. Because that something that is wrong or something that is missing is causing the reframe to be an actionable item. Correct?
Say it one more time. So something is wrong.
Yeah, so you have to realize that there's something is wrong in order to reframe it.
Okay.
That
Yes,
makes sense.
right.
Right.
You have to realize that there's something that you would prefer to be different. Not necessarily wrong, I don't think. Personally, I don't think.
Perfect. I'm
Yeah.
fine with that too. Yeah. Good clarity, because I'm trying to remove wrong from my lexicon. I really am. I'm really trying, and failure as a bad thing. The failure is just an opportunity to improve. That's how I look at it, right?
Okay.
So when you see and your lazy butt sitting on the couch.
Stinking up the living room.
Okay, I got to reframe this, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, but anyway, so one of the things that I was writing down, I was jotting down a couple of notes, is, something is not working, right? For you, you're not satisfied with this current situation, right? I started thinking about, it goes back to one of our words we talked about last year was efficiency. So the reframing is about measurables. If you measure something and man, how come I'm not reaching this plateau or something? That's when you have to reframe it, because if you can't measure it, how can you improve? You know what I'm saying? So that goes to one of the things that, when Gary and I was talking about the iron triangle, and I have it up here and I wish I could put it up on the screen, but the iron triangle is about time, cost, and scope.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So when if one is missing, that means that triangle is a little more weak, so to speak. And I think that it goes back to your assessment. like that value assessment, the iron triangle is your value assessment, because what's in the middle of the iron triangle is quality. At the end of the day, if quality is not your one of the key items and components of peace is quality, right? When you after you clean and you have a good resolve, it's pleasurable. That's quality. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a quality.
I like that. I like that breath you just did. That. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know, because dude, it's nothing like a clean house.
Yeah.
It's nothing like a clean house, especially like your bed is fresh, clean sheets and different things like that, and you just like. There's something valuable about that. Like once you know, Bro James, you was talking about there's a value in multiple things, right? But at the end, what is your goal? What is your intentions after all this is said and done? You know what I mean? That's kind of like how I look at it. So I really believe, and I'm gonna say this and shut up about the measurables, is that we gotta have a measurable goal in mind, because if you can't measure it, you can't improve. Right? You know what I'm saying?
100%. 100%. I like the approach of trying to line it up with goals. You mentioned efficiency, and it just kind of struck something in my mind. So if we stick with the same example that we're talking about with, like, you know, keeping a tidy space. You mentioned, like I said, you mentioned efficiency, and it just made me think of the idea of the procrastination. I can put it off till tomorrow. I put it off until another time or later. I'm going to do this first, and I'll get to that another time. But the fact of the matter is, time is finite. There's only so much time, not only in a day, but in a lifetime.
That's so true.
It's finite. It's a small amount of time. And so speaking to efficiency, it makes sense to me, and this is another reframe. It makes sense to me, and this is, you know, my humble opinion. It makes sense to prioritize things that are going to make other things productive. So if we stick with this same idea of, you know, a tidy space, I'm able to work in that space way more effectively if I have room to spread out and move around and do what I need to do, as opposed to you know, stepping over. You know, my dog made a mess in the hallway or something. I keep stepping over it and all that kind of stuff. Like it, we don't realize how much that affects our mental on the inside when it comes time to do other things in that space. So if I'm trying to work in that space, and I'm, you know, and I'll give an example from my own personal space. In my office on my desk, I have a space that's, let me see if I can get this on the camera. There we go. Okay, so I have a space that's about this big by about this big, that is like just supposed to be open space where I can, you know, move around, write notes, move my mouse, my keyboard, things like that, have my phone, little mount. When things are working properly, I have that much space. But if I allow myself, and I do this, you know, reasonably often, not all the time, but if I allow myself to put off throwing this thing away or putting this back in its designated spot or things like that, then I'll realize that over a period of time, I'll be working in a space that's this big. And it doesn't allow me to have the freedom of thought when I'm trying to work on something or trying to, 100%. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
It's incredible to think about how much that affects
100%.
the inside of or how our minds react to having a space like that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm speaking. This is purely. I'm speaking on my own experience. For me, it makes a huge difference when I make that change, and that requires a reframe. Because if I'm only thinking of it as, oh, it's just physical space. If I'm not framing it in my mind to realize that it's literally showing what's going on in my mind, and my mind is too cluttered, I can't think clearly. I can't have a direct line from synapse A to synapse B. You know what I mean? It's got to jump all the way around and go through all of the rest of the mess.
So I got a question for you. Do you think that is a reflection? Your external is a reflection of what's going on internally. You know what I'm saying?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. I think our spaces that we maintain, you know, and it's psychologically proven. It's not just my thought about it. The space that we maintain is a reflection of what's going on in our heads. But I mean, I want to, you know, make sure that we're not just necessarily diving in, and you know, this is not a podcast about cleaning up your house.
No. So check this out. One thing, like, because I'm glad you said that. No. Because this is the whole point about reframing. You brought up the word procrastination, and it's funny that this conversation came up with a coworker of mine, is actually a customer, and procrastination. And you said that sacrifice was a part of that because of, I guess, the way you were processing things and different things like that. I can't remember, so excuse me for that. But one of the words that came up in my mind was insecurity. I think that procrastination, there's a part of insecurity that's tied to procrastination. And I think with that, that's my understanding. I don't know if anybody else have that understanding, but with procrastination, there's an insecurity that's tied to it, which have to be reframed. And you know what I'm saying? Because when you procrastinate, a lot of times there's a lack of knowledge. You really don't know what to do, or you're afraid of the accountability or responsibility that might come from that action, which causes a lot of that. Right?
100%. And it requires a reframe.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point that I was actually getting to. And reframing is, it's when it's, I was about to say available. It's about changing your perception of the thing, right?
Yes.
Changing perception to lessen the suffering aspect. Not saying that it would remove the suffering aspect, right? But it lessens it. It gives you clarity. It gives you a little bit more of an organization tool during that pain, because there's a reason why you have to reframe, because you're suffering something, right? That's the whole point of reframing, because something is, like I said, I'm not going to say wrong, but there's something not working properly.
Yeah, there's something that you want to change.
Yep.
Yeah, life is a reframe, I was thinking. You know, life is a reframe.
Nice.
And I think it kind of goes to what I mentioned earlier when I said we do it and we don't always think about it.
Yeah.
Because as you guys were talking, I was thinking about my own experience from many, many years ago when I went into college, right? Come out of a household where I have an older brother, and so he went to Michigan State University. So my father, he was the only one working in the house. My mother wasn't working, you know, stay-at-home mom. And so going away, paying tuition, room and board, meal plan, the whole bit for my brother up at Michigan State. Okay, I'm just short of 2 years behind him. So when I come out of high school, I'm thinking, well, I realize that even though I knew that I wanted to go to college, you know, because I knew that's where success could come from, at least that was in my mind. I realized right away there wasn't going to be any money for me. And so then I have the goal of getting a college degree, but then the reality of I'm not going to get sent away to school like my brother. There's no money, because during the time that he was away, I saw how my father was struggling to pay the bills to keep him up at East Lansing.
Yeah.
And so here I come. I have an expectation to get my degree, but then I have to go reframe. And in my case, I said, okay, the goal is to get a degree, but then here comes the roadblock. The roadblock is obvious. There's no money.
Finances. So
then now I got to think about how can I achieve the goal knowing that there's no money coming from the household in order to get me to go there. And so I started looking at colleges that would not pay me, if you will.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up at the time it was called GMI, General Motors Institute. Today it's called Kettering University.
Okay.
The reason I applied there, and God is good, I was stupid. That was the only school I applied for.
Wow.
And it was a hard school to get in.
Okay.
I'm naive.
Okay.
Only school I applied for, I got in. Why? Because they had a work-study program where one semester you go to work and they pay you. Actual cash money, pay you. And then I could use that money to go to school.
Okay.
So that's how I got into that program. So then when we're talking about reframing, I had to reframe how I was going to be able to get the degree.
Yeah, what it looked like to get an education with no money.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so that's what I meant when I said earlier that reframing happens all the time, and we just don't necessarily put that label on it.
Very good.
Yes.
And so things went, as things, went on, I wanted to transfer from the mechanical engineering program to the industrial administration program. They said, no, we're not going to allow you to do that. So then I transferred. And so that's how I ended up at Wayne State.
Okay.
And then I was able to stay on with the sponsoring unit that I was with, and they kept me as a college co-op student. Okay. So then now I'm still going to school, taking classes, and still getting paid.
Nice.
Because I had to figure out how, because I could have let go of the goal.
That's right. Yes.
I could have let go of the goal, but I knew the goal had such value that I couldn't let it go.
Very good.
So then that was the question of
how
do you accomplish the goal along with the roadblocks that you're dealing with.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And so now I'm at Wayne State and I'm working, and then after a while, even that went away. The co-op program that I was in Wayne State. So then now I had to go to outside jobs. So I remember there was a place called Shoe Town. Okay. I remember working there, and I remember at one point I had 3 small jobs at the same time because I had to pay for school.
Yeah.
And of course I was staying at home now. So, a lot of people figure to get the college experience you need to go away. But I needed to stay home to be able to pay for it.
To afford it, yeah.
Right. And so that's what I mean by the reframing goes on all the time.
It happens all the time.
And the value we're talking about, if I held to the value of accomplishing, then I also had to be okay with accomplishment is more than just getting the degree, but it's a timing issue also. Because see, now I may have to be delayed a little bit because of lack of money, or if you don't have enough money, you can't take as many classes. If you can't take as many classes, then that means it takes longer. Right. And so I was going through all of that, but I held on to the fact that doing this is well worthwhile. Man. So there were times where I actually had a car and I drove myself back and forth. Other times I was on DOT, or it was back DSR back then before they changed from DSR to DOT.
Ooh, you dating yourself, Doc.
Yep, I know.
Back I was on the horse and carriages. I was getting on the trolley.
That's funny.
But yeah, so, and that was me with college. But what about someone else, going to a trade school, or because they know college may not be in the picture, or they don't even want it, We reframe, but once again, going back to what I said earlier, what is your value? And if you value something, then you understand that things may need to be moved around. So success may look a little bit different, either timing-wise or accomplishment-wise.
So good.
But that's all part of reframing.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And so that brings the thought of just understanding that goals are the finish line. And we talked about this several times over the last, few episodes, but setting a goal is not the same as laying out every single track along the path. Setting a goal puts the finish line in place.
Very good.
Understanding how the path is going to look to get there is a completely different thing. Good. And having a mindset that allows us to continually be ready to reframe, because that's always going to be necessary. Like you just mentioned, that's the story of life. It's the game of life. Understanding how to reframe and adapt, which is really another way to say it, is a critical element in a person's mindset to reach whatever goal we have set. So, for instance, we just talked about writing a book. Or I'm assuming you mean a book. Is that right? Okay,
yes.
Writing a book, or finishing an LP or an album, or learning a new language. That's the goalpost. That's the finish line. But what we're talking about is understanding how to navigate the path.
Very good.
And being able to reframe when Duolingo ups their price and I don't want to pay for it anymore, or when when a creative collaborator decides that they want to move in a different direction,
Yeah.
or when you have some sort of creative block that pauses your progress or momentum when you're writing. All of these are things that we have to look at and say, okay, I understand the value of the goal that I've set. How can I take where my momentum and my trajectory so far, factor in the objection or the obstacle that I'm up against right now, and navigate around it to still be able to move towards that goal? That's literally what a reframe is. Another thing that I was thinking about is a book that I like to recommend to people all the time. It's called The Big Leap. It's by a gentleman named Gay Hendricks, and he talks in that book about a lot of different things that are mostly reframes, back to back to back, actually. But one of my favorite ones is called The Upper Limit Problem. I think I've shared that with you. I'm sure I've shared it with you guys before. But essentially what the upper limit problem is recognizing when we've started to build some momentum, and let's say, let's use your example with the book. Let's say you have set out to write a book that is, 30 chapters. And you start to build momentum and you got 5 chapters, you got 10 chapters, you got 15. And for some reason, all of a sudden now there is, some sort of turmoil in your home. You and your wife maybe have a little bit of disagreements a little more often, or you recognize that, the ministry that you do at the church is starting to pull a little more on you, or you're deciding to put a little more into it, or things like that. And then you look back at your book and you wonder, why haven't I been able to progress as well as I was during chapters 1 through 15 or 1 through 20? That's one example. There are a lot of examples that we could go to, but that's one example of what Gay would recommend or point to as an upper limit problem. Essentially what it is recognizing when our trajectory has got to the point where we in our own minds have set a limit for ourselves. It's another way to describe it is like a fear of success, right? And so I've got to this, I'm almost at the finish line, I'm feeling good about my momentum, and then here comes this thing where I allow myself to shift my energy and my attention to this thing or that thing, and now the original momentum has halted. Recognizing an upper limit problem is pointing to that and saying, okay, are me and my wife really at odds for real? Do I really need to spend 7 days a week down at the church, writing on the chalkboard to prepare for this particular service or that sermon or things like that or whatever? Do I really need to do that, or am I distracting myself? Am I pulling myself away because when I finish this book, I know that might be something that finishing this book and putting it out there may be something that I'm truly afraid of. A fear of accomplishing this huge thing.
I know what you mean.
That's so far as far as what I've accomplished to date. Is beyond the scope of that. It's beyond the scope of anything that I've ever done before. And so I've created this limit in my mind, this challenge, this ceiling in my mind. And now that I'm bumping up against this ceiling, I'm hitting this upper limit problem. So understanding how to navigate that is a reframe, which says, I have to think about where I've been so far, what I've been able to accomplish so far, how many times in my life I've been able to overcome those quote unquote limits over and over and over again throughout life. I mean, you think of the simplest things, learning your ABCs, learning how to drive, learning how to, do this or that, traveling by yourself, going out to dinner by yourself. These are all things that a lot of people have trepidation when they first nailed it, when they first approach these things. And
that's very good.
The thing is that once we get past them, we've unlocked a new level.
Yeah.
And so that's really all it is about. So
I agree.
Recognizing that is to wrap this up, to reframe is to recognize when we've hit a limit that we've set for ourselves, and then figuring out a way to navigate it using the triumphs that we've experienced in the past to motivate ourselves
Very
to
good.
push past and then continue with wherever
Wonderful.
we're headed.
Wonderful.
Man, that took a long time. Sorry about that.
You all right?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, because as matter of fact, as you were talking, and when you use an example of the book, I was thinking, I'm already there. Even though I've only gone so far, I've run into the challenge of I knew what I knew when this idea first came into my mind, and over a period of time, I've gained knowledge and understanding. So now maybe what I wrote, maybe I need to go back and look at it again. Or maybe it's not good enough, you know. Or am I almost finished and I realize I could have done better here, better there. So now there's constant rewrites, if you will. And I've heard writers even have that issue, and someone has to tell them just finish it and just put it out there.
Yes,
You know?
and then write another
And
one.
just write another
Yeah,
one.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I do the same thing with my music. I've learned to after a while to just release. You got to release it. You got to get it out of there. And another thing, to go back to what you were talking about with the threshold, or not the threshold, but the ceiling that you hit. It's okay to adjust the ceiling a little bit higher. You know what I'm saying?
Remove the ceiling altogether.
Yeah, and there you go. There you go.
There is no
You know,
limit for us except for the limit that we've accepted for our own selves.
totally agree
and
with
that's a
that.
limit that we've either been told and we accept it, or it's a limit that we created. Either way, it's imaginary.
Yeah, just remove the ceiling. I like
Yeah.
that even better.
There are no ceilings.
So one of the things that I started thinking about more and more is, the ceiling is what you created in yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
100%.
The blockade.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was thinking about, to go back to reframing, is resilience. I think that when you were talking about, there's a resilient aspect to what you were saying, James, about you had a goal in mind and you didn't allow the obstacles to ruin that, or cause you to be discomforted by that in some type of way. You worked 3 jobs. You did whatever it takes to reach the goal that you were aiming for. You reframed. How many years? 4 years? 5 years? I don't know.
4.5, 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long
Which
time.
wasn't too much longer, but yeah.
But how old were you?
I started out at 17.
Yeah,
right
see-
out of high school.
And see, that's what I'm saying. Like, for you to have that mindset at that young age is phenomenal. You know, and that's a beautiful thing. I don't know if it was the people you surrounded yourself up, that plays a huge role too, with your peripherals. Sometimes the environment that you find yourself around really helps navigate to push you along the way.
You know, if I could just
Yeah.
jump in on
Yeah,
that,
go ahead.
and it's not talking specifically to reframing, but it's speaking to motivation.
There
You
you
know, and it wasn't. I grew up in a household where my parents were the type where they expected success. Okay.
Okay.
They just plain expected it. You know, and it really wasn't that they did a whole lot to push you along.
I got you.
It was just their expectation. Yeah. Okay. Grew up right here in the city, inner city, as people would say. And there was one particular person on the block. He was like 5 or 6 years older than me. Okay. And he was always seen as someone that was probably going to be successful because he came from a quote unquote good family. After he graduated, and a couple of years after his graduation, I saw him, and I guess unfortunately he got caught up in the crack thing and alcohol. And I said, no, that ain't going to be me. Because, you know, most of us, at least when I grew up, we never left our neighborhood unless we went to Cedar Point. Most of us didn't, you know. And so our world was just that small.
Gotcha.
And so knowing the neighborhood and seeing the other fellas and, you know, seeing certain things, you know, I remember playing and going down, because we used to play in the alleys back then because, you know, alleys were. And I remember seeing a dead kid laying out there. And evidently it was because he must have tried to break into someone's house. Someone caught him, and in running, he shot him in the back. And, you know, now granted, that's nothing that you see every day.
Right.
And I'm not saying that had such a traumatic, effect on my mind. But once again, just knowing that you grew up in that environment, I had decided that's not going to be me.
Yeah.
And when I think back, that was my motivating drive to say, hey, I will be successful, because to not succeed means I'll have to deal with some of the things, you know. Because the same person, before he went downhill, you know, he didn't do as much as he could have, I'm guessing. he went to work with his father, so I would see him coming home dirty every day. Now, there's nothing wrong. I know I have to clean that up because there's nothing wrong with going to work and getting dirty. That is not what I'm implying.
It's an honest day's work.
It is, yeah. But he wasn't happy with it. I knew he wasn't happy in it, But that was his lot in life because he allowed himself. And so to me, those
He accepted that limit.
He accepted that, yeah. So to me, those were the motivating things that challenged me. So when I saw that it wasn't going to come easy, I had to make it happen because otherwise I would have been the one that I said I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said about the comment that you made with about things being easy or not coming easy. We think that. So I grew up in a household where we had the essentials, but I was by no means well off coming up as a kid. And I've seen and experienced the challenges that come along with, what in the broad scheme of things, I want to be careful with how I say this. In the broad scheme of things, coming up in poverty or below the poverty line, so to speak. Understanding that life is very difficult. It's challenging to get up and trudge to work when you know that at the end of the pay period, it's just going to be enough to manage the bills and not much else, right? Thankfully, I'm very thankful for my upbringing in terms of, my parents provided for myself and my sister, and we never went without. I don't want to, give them the wrong impression. But I understand that lifestyle is very challenging. It's hard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I understand as well that the sacrifices, the quote unquote grind to be successful financially is also hard. It's very, very challenging. It takes a lot. It takes more than most people will realize. And then even when that comes, there are still a lot of challenges that come along with it.
Yes.
100%.
For me, the reframe has been to. Okay, we got a comment. We're gonna read that in 1 second. For me, the reframe there has been to make a determination about which of those challenges I'm willing to endure, whether I'm willing to live a life that continues in, let's call it mediocre as far as finances and that goes, or the challenge and the sacrifices that come along with pushing towards the goals that I have specifically for, my financial future and my financial goals. Both of those things are very, very, very hard, living either of those lives.
Yes.
And the broader picture is that if we zoom out, we see that life itself is hard. It's hard no matter whose life we're talking about. Whether we're talking about the richest man in the world or the most poor person or the person who lives this particular lifestyle or lives that lifestyle, the person who has faith and has found God, or the person who considers themselves an atheist or whatever. Every single one of us is going through, has to go through it to get through it.
Yes.
Will Smith has this line in one of his songs where he says, "Nobody gets an easy ride. It just doesn't happen. Nobody gets an easy ride."
That's true.
And so the reframe is to look at that and make a decision based on what we want for ourselves. So I want this. I would prefer for this to be my lifestyle. I prefer to have this and do this and go here, that type of thing. And then once I've made that selection, set those goals, then I put my mindset in a place where I'm able to reframe around any obstacles that come in the path to get to that goal.
That's awesome. Were you about to say something?
No, you said you were going to
Oh, yeah, we got a comment. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Let's see. Somebody said facts. Thank you very much. I don't know which comment. I'm sorry we missed when you wrote that. One line at a time says, "Slow cooked meals, young brother." I'm assuming she's talking to me because she ain't talking to y'all. Okay, slow cooked meals, young brother, are okay. That's right. I love a slow cooked meal. Let's see. Maya's rotation says 100%. They say it's hard because when you do reframe and revamp, people's perspectives change around you and the trajectory of your overall life changes. Not necessarily good, bad, or indifferent. There's just a change there. And I agree with that 100%. And that goes back to what we were talking about before. Neither one of the lives that I've just described were right or wrong.
Right.
They're just different.
Right.
It's just that this person has accepted these particular limits for themselves, and they've allowed themselves to settle into this particular lifestyle, and they live that, and they may,
Absolutely,
they may
man.
find happiness and joy, and that's great. Yeah. And then there are people who have chosen this thing. They've removed certain limits and probably installed other ones for themselves, and then they live this lifestyle, and there's challenges there, and that's great. They can still find happiness there. Yep. So I think that's a really good point to recognize that. With a reframe, we're not talking about good or bad. We're not talking about right or wrong. We're just talking about us making decisions as individuals for where we would like our lives to go, what things we would like to accomplish, and how we can get there by putting ourselves in the right mindset.
Absolutely. It's about making adjustments, right?
Yes.
So, and the proper adjustments. I want to go back to this real quick, though, about the youth. Being young and being young, able to make a choice as to reframe. That's powerful, especially when a child is in college or whatnot. When the transfer of high school to college, it's impactful. Not only college, but in any type of occupation, so to speak. You're dealing with people that's been on the job for 10 or plus years, and you're dealing with experiences, bad behaviors, good behaviors, all types of things. And when you're coming from high school to a new occupation or to college or whatnot, there's a reframing that you have to do in your mindset, because lecturing, you don't find that in high school. You know what I'm saying? The coaches in basketball and football and across the board, they don't deal with you the same way a high school coach has dealt with you. You know what I'm saying? So you have to really retool your mindset or reframe, like going back to the word reframe. But revamp, and even mindset revamp, is about really taking the time to really understand the communication. What's the message? What do I want to be? What do I want to become in all this? And a lot of people are able to determine that earlier on, and some later. I'm the later part.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I gotta admit, I'm the later part where I really figure out, like, wow, that's what this means right now, right? This means, but that's the safe place for me. You see what I'm saying? If I was placed, to go back to what Maya was saying about being, it's no right, no wrong, no bad, just a difference. Man, brother, listen, I would struggle if I was dropped right in Africa. They know how to survive in their elements, their environments, and everything right on, And many of them, if they were dropped in our area from Africa here, so to speak, it would be the same thing. They would struggle for a minute. But I guarantee you, they have a different...
Africa?
Huh?
Why'd you pick Africa?
Well, the reason why...
I'm just talking junk, bro.
No, well, because this is the reason why because I deal with a couple of brothers from Africa, and a lot of times they're asking for money and different things. They need support in many ways, right? So, they know how to survive with the minimal, very minimal. They know how to survive, right? If I was dropped in there, it would take retooling of my mind, a reframe work, quite a bit to survive. It would take a long time. But if they were placed over here, they have a tenacity because of the lack, where they will probably find a job real quick, possibly. You know what I'm saying? I know a couple of African guys that they say it all the time. I had $15 coming over here. Now they're like executives, they're CEOs of logistical companies and stuff, because there's a drive there. You know what I mean?
And there's more opportunity.
Exactly. So when you talk about reframing, it's not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but some people will look at it as a bad thing, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? It's about really understanding the power of the mind. at the end of the day. Yeah.
I agree.
And or the environment that you were.
One second, I just want to
yeah.
clear something up, only because this is going out to the entire world potentially. I'm going to speak for you if that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm certain. So the fact of the matter is, there is a lot of wealth in Africa, and so I'm assuming you mean the specific areas that are impoverished and have that lack that you're talking about.
Right. I'm with that.
I just wanted to make sure we pointed that out. That
Yeah. Well, that's the reason.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why I said I know some brothers that I was talking to that needed the support. Right,
that come
area.
from
So,
those specific areas. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's a more of a conversation that can be had with that, and maybe the brothers from Africa can be on this call to help us out with that. You know what I'm saying? Because hey, maybe there's some communication that be had if those that are wealthy that's there maybe can help out with how they become wealthy to the rural areas that don't have much. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we gotta help. We gotta start that here though.
Yeah, right down the street.
Yeah, I mean, look, all you gotta do is go outside and look around here, right where we at.
Yeah, but that's once again, man. That's
a big conversation.
That's a big, huge conversation, man. But anyway, go ahead, brother. John.
Oh, and I was just saying, based on what you said, I was thinking environment can force a reframing also.
Yeah.
Because you find yourself in a different environment, different standards, and therefore it's in the learning curve, as you talked about as well. Some learn quicker than others. I was thinking about when you mentioned about going from high school to college, and where in high school you're used to the teacher getting on you. Did you do your homework? Did you do your homework? Did you turn it in? Did you turn it in? And of course, we know in college it's like, professor may not even talk to you.
Exactly.
So it's all on you, And so, so the different environment, what does success look like in a different environment,
100%.
And we're not even getting into how prepared you were prior to getting to that new environment to be successful in that environment.
Yes.
And that's why it's so important, why it's necessary for some to go to certain schools, because they may not have been prepared as much. And that's why HBCUs tend to be a good choice for many of us, because they have more of a understanding of how we may have lacked in some cases, not all across the board, but in some cases, because I noticed that with my son when he went from one school and he ended up in the HBCU, and it was a much better fit for him as well. Yeah, but yet the environment can cause or force a reframing as well.
True. Understood. I do want to. This is my last point until next time, until we meet again. But but I was thinking about this. So I have this strategy now that I'm helping with my kids. I'm in the development of it or whatnot, but I don't want to give all the details, not just yet until it's rolled out. But with my kids, what we're starting to do is get them more into understand and comprehend what they are reading at an earlier age, and that takes some reframing, because nowadays the way you look at YouTube channels, video games, different things like that, they have a lot of attention towards that, right? But I want to pull them away so they can be mindful and be effective in a real world situation. You see what I'm saying?
Because reading words on the screen is not the same as reading.
100%. And I'm glad you said that, because I think that there's a logical, philosophical, theoretical way that we can reframe our children, so to speak. Not after our image, right? But in such a way where they can be of value to the world. You see what I'm saying? So like if someone is communicating to them, I want them to be able to discern if the information that they're receiving, is it valuable or is it relevant, or if it's relevant or is it irrelevant? You see what I'm saying? I want them to be able to understand that. I wasn't taught that when I was younger. You see what I'm saying? I kind of struggled for a long time until I was really in my 30s probably, when it just trigger just hit like, man, I don't know. I'm gonna tell you what really started me going down my path was when I got tired of playing Angry Birds while I was traveling. Okay. No, that's true. I was on the plane playing Angry Birds left and right. And something triggered me, man. I was like,
it's got to be more to life.
It's got to be more to life than this, right? Seriously. So one of the first books I actually enjoyed when I picked up was it was called Smarter, Better, Faster. And it was by Charles Duhigg. And it was about improving the production of your life. And the book is a really, really good read. It's a quick read. It's not really big. I would say it's about this big. So I think about maybe 500 pages. I don't know. You know what I mean? But it was a really good, and once you start, it's a good flow. And what it taught me, and Tamara, when I was done, I gave it to Tamara. Tamara loved it. And the whole idea is reframing. Books, when you read books, they help you. Like you were saying, the book that you were talking about, they really help you nudge you in a path of thought processes. You know what I'm saying? Jordan Peterson is really good for that. One thing I know about Jordan Peterson's book is you have to read him for a little bit to understand his flow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's an interesting author.
Yeah, go ahead. You was about to say something?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, he's an interesting author because the way he frames things, the way he words things, his terminologies and the verbiage that he chooses to use, you have to kind of retool your mind a little bit in order to grasp his thought process.
Yeah.
He used quite a bit of examples to get his point across, but once you start understanding his flow, you say, okay, I see where he's going with that. You know what I mean? So he's pretty good.
Yeah, I like. I read his book, The 12 Rules for Life.
Yep, not bad.
Yep, it was okay. I enjoyed it. I got something from it, but with him specifically as an author, I tend to study the people that he's studied.
Oh,
and so he references Friedrich Nietzsche. He references Carl Jung a lot. He references I think Franz Kafka and some other thinkers from history. For me personally, and I know we're getting a little bit away from reframing, but not really.
Not really.
For me, it's been more effective to literally just study those guys.
Yeah.
Only because Peterson talks in a way that, God help me, he talks in a way that feels almost condescending in a way, and it kind of it rubs me a little bit. You know what I mean?
I see that.
Just a little bit.
But you know it's but that's the. I think Thomas will say the academia. Sometimes the academia side and the knowledge puffs up. Even Paul talks about knowledge puffs up. You know what I mean? So
in a certain sense, but in my experience, the wisest people are usually the kindest people. So people who tend to be a little bit mean with what they found or what they understand or what they know or even think they know, tend to be people.
You just gotta be careful.
Yeah. Tend to be people that, you know, I'll just say I don't really want to listen to that much. You know what I mean?
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
If you're forceful with what you have come to understand and you're trying to share those ideas, it makes it less palatable to me.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this now, and like I said, I was gonna say that this is my last point, but this is it though.
That's just a little note for you when you're writing your book, by the way.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's like a little coaches, right? So, like when you go back to, and this is reframing, right? But that's, you know, I'm gonna stop right here because it's gonna go to another topic and subject, and I don't want to go there. But this is something that we can remember. This for reframing for the next topic will be getting more into energy. Okay. I would like to talk about energy. I would like to talk about that. When someone enters into a room, how come the whole room changes the atmosphere? You see what I'm saying? So it goes back to what you're saying about listening or hearing or reading the words of someone. How does that voice of him causes a certain emotion inside? That's powerful, right? You know what I'm saying? And I would love to get into that probably in the next.
Love to. Absolutely.
Anybody have any last thoughts?
Well, I enjoy Dr. Seuss and the changing environment of where you eat green eggs and ham.
There you go. Yeah. So you can have it with a mouse or in a house or in a car or at the bar. Yeah, I love it.
Man, beautiful.
By the way, Dr. Seuss was brilliant, man.
Yeah.
Dr. Seuss was a prolific writer. I mean, you know, in order to be able to do some of the things he did with language is impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason why so many kids or so many people who are advanced in literature now start off with Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So everyone, man, I hope you enjoyed the talk today.
Yes.
This is Let Your Words Count. My name is Ethan Merriweather, here with Michael Wilson and James Cole. We
That's
are
me.
signing out with have a beautiful, beautiful night. All right. God bless
And
you.
welcome to 2026. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, send it to your friends, send it to somebody who you think may be able to benefit from a conversation like this. Please be sure to add some words in. I mean, you know, we have a certain list of words that we might want to work from, but if you have a word or a thought that you'd like for us to kind of expound on, please feel free to share that in the comments, whether you do it here live while we're talking, or whether you do it, you know, on a rewatch or at another time, or if you happen to know one of us personally, send it to us. We'd love to talk about it. The whole purpose of this is to have valuable, fruitful conversation. Check out the letyourwordscount.com, also egprodx.com. See, we already got 2 words. Website. No, I'm just playing. We already got a word. Meaning. I love meaning. That's a great one. So yeah, feel free to share those with us. We will definitely keep track of them, and we will talk about them in their order. Anything else?
That's it. No, I'm good,
All right,
brother.
Love
Night,
y'all.
y'all.
Peace.
All right. God bless y'all.